Welcome to another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. It is another NFL Division Preview edition of the show as we count down to the beginning of the 2024 NFL season. And in this video, we will preview the AFC East. It is a fascinating division. It's a division that's been owned by the Buffalo Bills the last few years, but there's going to be teams that are ready to challenge them in this division for AFC East supremacy this year. Fun division to talk about and preview, and we'll get to that in just a moment. And joining me for this division preview edition of the show is a longtime pro football kicker. He has been at it for a long time, tryouts in the CFL, mostly in the last decade with various forms of indoor football, arena football league, national arena league, indoor football league. Most recently, I believe played for the Bay Area team this past season in the IFL, and we are happy to have him for the first time on the Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy show, Craig "The Leg" Peterson, as the guest here joining me. Craig, good to have you on the Frenzy. How are you?
Good. And listen, Ian, I appreciate you having me on the show, man. Thank you so much.
No doubt. Before we get into some AFC East talk, you've obviously had a very interesting football playing career trajectory. A case of, didn't get to the brightest lights, NFL or a major, professional league, CFL, not much as far as the spring league since they came back into existence is concerned, like the UFL, USFL, XFL. But what you have been doing, Craig, is grinding away upwards of a decade playing in various professional indoor leagues. Just talk about the process of, not getting to the top of the mountain, if you will, with the major pro leagues, going the indoor route, and how you've been at it now for almost a decade. And I would assume a big part of it is your love for this sport. You're doing some coaching now, of course, in football. And I think the fact that you're still playing in the indoor league and your coaching tells you that the reason you've been at it so long as a kicker, a decade in all these various indoor football leagues, is because you love this damn sport and it's a passion of yours. So talk about the Craig Peterson football journey.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Football is my life, and it's become that since I started, wanting to really kick back in, 2012, I believe it was. And it's just, it's just one of those things where you don't even know what's going on until it actually happens. And, I had, dreams and aspirations to be a professional soccer player for the longest time. And middle school, high school, and, even in the beginning years of college. But that's just not how it worked out. I ended up being a professional athlete, just not in the wrong sport, just in football instead of soccer. So being a multi-sport athlete growing up, I did a little bit of everything. I only did soccer in high school, but I could play anything that there was, and just kind of became good at it because having three older brothers is a competitive household. So you do a little bit of everything when you have competition like that. So soccer was great, but I kind of fell out of love with it after my first year of college at our Herkimer County Community College, which is about an hour west of where I'm at right now at RPI in Troy. So, growing up in Burnt Hills, which is about 20 minutes from here, played soccer. We didn't win sectionals, anything like that. Went on to Herkimer, tried to play soccer. I took a year off, actually. I was just kind of burnt out from being on the Olympic Development Program team for 3 years in high school, obviously 4 years of high school varsity soccer. And then I was also on a travel team called Blackwatch. I did that for about 3 or 4 years, I think it was. So a lot of soccer, man, a lot of soccer growing up, and, just kind of got burnt out, took a year off, went to go back a year after that to try for Herkimer. It didn't work out. So I ended up doing track to kind of get me back in shape. Lo and behold, long story short, I actually ended up being a 2-time All-American in the decathlon, which was kind of crazy because I'd never done track before. So,
which I just got watching it in Paris at the Olympics last month. That's a true test.
Yeah.
Just all the disciplines of track and field, right? You do the distance running, the shorter distance running, the hurdles, the javelin, the pole vault. It just tests so many different areas of your abilities.
Yeah, everything. Jumping, running, throwing,
Yep.
all those things that test your body. And I had fun with it. I originally got to do track just to do some jumping events because I did have a pretty high vertical And then the coach put me in a 4x1 that we needed points for at the end of a track meet. And I ended up running like an 11.5. So that was pretty good apparently at the time. And I ended up getting that down to sub 11. So I ended up running after that. And then after that, then we did the 4x4 and she needed me in that. And then, it kind of took off from there. And then I started throwing some things and, the javelin, the shot put, the discus, and started to pole vault a little bit. And then all these things started to come together. And she's like, well, I'm putting you in the decathlon for regionals. And then I ended up winning regionals and then went to nationals and got second place there. So
shit, we lost Craig for a moment. We'll see if we can get him back on the show in just a moment. But in the meantime,
going over.
Oh, we got you back. Sorry, you just maybe you hit something and you jumped out of the studio, but he's back. So carry on, keep going.
No, yeah. So just kind of shows a little bit of my athletic ability, into kind of becoming the athlete that I am today, and just kind of taking that with me into football. And only I think 2012, 13, and 14, I just trained. I ended up getting a part-time job. I moved out to Buffalo with my kicking coach. I ended up training with Jake Shum. Jake Shum ended up playing in the NFL for 3 years, 2 with the Packers, once with the Bucks. And we trained together for 2.5 straight years. Jake graduated from UB at the time. I think he's about 4 years younger than me. So it was just a constant grind, and to be able to reach goals and aspirations that I had in kicking was phenomenal. Everyone didn't think that, it could happen. I was the only one that knew it was going to happen. It was my mother too. She supported me, and it was just one of those things, man, where you have dreams and you make them into reality. You manifest, that dream, and I was able to make it come true because of all the work ethic that I put in. The work ethic that I had and all the work that I put into it. The time, the energy, the focus, everything that I needed to do, the training, the film sessions, shoveling off snow at Buff State at 6 a.m. and getting reps in with Jake and doing everything possible to get to that next level. And that's what it takes. That's what it takes. If you want to be a professional athlete, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I don't think people realize how hard it is, until you're actually there and you want to be a part of that. And then you have these dreams. And in order to make them become reality, you have to put the work in and day out. There's no days off. It's a constant grind. And you really have to fall in love with the process of being great.
That's very well said. You've just got to keep working hard, trying to get better, right? Day by day, incrementally better than you were the day before. I mean, it's something you've heard a lot from various players and athletes over the years, but it's so true. I do want to talk about, because we're big CFL fans, I have my own dedicated CFL betting show every week as part of the Football Frenzy series of shows. I'm a Hamilton Ticats season ticket holder and fan my whole life. I do want to mention about the 2 tryout opportunities you got with the CFL, one with Ottawa, one with Hamilton. What was that experience like in your time in Canada, albeit very briefly?
Yeah, so, the Ottawa Red Blacks was my first stint. Besides open tryouts, going and trying out for CFL teams, AFL teams, there was an NFL. They used to have these regional combines. So, there was one at the New York Jets indoor facility that I went to. There was one at the Buffalo Bills indoor facility I went to, and where else? And Houston Texans as well was another one that I went to, their indoor facility. And nothing ended up happening. Obviously, I'm surrounded by guys who all played at the collegiate level, right? I myself never played a down at college football. Never had one kick in college football. I have my degrees, but no college football experience. And that definitely hurt me. I didn't play in high school either, obviously, because I was too busy playing soccer. So with zero experience going into these regional combines, it's really hard to get picked out from scouts, no matter how well you do, because it's just like, oh, hey, yeah, you looked really good. You got a great leg. Where'd you play your college ball? And I remember I actually talked to a New York Jets scout in 2013. There was a workout with Michael Husted, and there was a combine out there. Tons of guys there. It was actually out at UNLV, I believe. And we're out there, and I'm crushing balls. And I had a New York Jets scout come up to me at the end of the combine, and he said just that. I love the way you hit the ball. You got a big leg. Where'd you play your college ball? And I said, I didn't play college football. And he's like, no way, get out of here. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I've just been training the last few years, and I wanted to come out and showcase my talent. And he's like, man, that's great to hear that you if we're interested. So it's kind of it's that frustrating experience, that you're going to have over and over again because you don't have a football background. So with the CFL, I actually dominated these kids at the CFL tryout for Ottawa Redblacks in Florida. And I punted really well, I kicked off really well, and I was very consistent in my field goals. So I separated myself from the competition, and there was, I think, 8 other kickers there that just went into this CFL tryout. Lo and behold, that next year, I think it was in December, and it was at the Sun Bowl, the Tampa Bay Sun Bowl, that stadium. That next year, come June, I believe it was almost the middle of June. Ottawa gave me a call. He said, "Hey, listen, we had 2 kickers go down. Do you have your passport?" And I was like, "Yep, yeah." I actually had it expedited back in January. So, and they said, "We're going to fly you out to Ottawa. You're going to compete against a couple other kids we want to bring in. We'll see how you do." So, of course, lo and behold, Brett Maher shows up. He just got released from Winnipeg, I believe, that week. He only lasted, I think, a week in training camp. Wasn't doing too well. Competed against him in training camp. It was only about a week and a half, and it's just one of those things that's demoralizing, because when you beat somebody as a kicker, especially because it's really cut and dry, right? You either make it or you don't. Well, we both went 9 for 10 in field goals. He missed from 55. I missed from 50, or he missed from 55. I missed from 50. So we both went 9 for 10, and it was in front of the whole team, the owners, everyone was there, the coaches, obviously. And my punts were substantially better than his. My directional punts were better than his. And then my kickoff length and kickoff hang times were better than his, because they yell out the distance and hang times. So when they called us over, they called him first. I was going second. I figured I got the job. And unfortunately, it was kind of the same story, right? They said, "Hey, listen, we love the way you kicked the ball. You did really well. You did good enough that we want to keep you here for the duration of training camp." And they told Brett that he was going to play on Saturday against Montreal for the preseason game. And if things went south for him, then I would get the nod to go in for the season opener. And that didn't happen like that. But I was there for the duration of camp. Brett did well against Montreal, and that's how it all started. And then I ended up talking to my kicking coach and said, "What else can we do to get noticed where we're not going to get judged on not playing college football?" Because Brett was obviously a 4-year starter at Nebraska. And I think that was the difference. It wasn't the fact that I did better than him. It was the fact that he had experience.
He had the college experience and you didn't, right?
Correct. Yeah. So he said, maybe we try the AFL route, the Arena Football League. Those uprights are 9 feet wide. Long story short with that, before I get to Hamilton, I ended up playing for the Tampa Bay Storm. And then there was a tryout there. I crushed the tryout. I ended up getting the spot with Juan Bongara for training camp, beat him out, and then that's when my career started. Fast forward 2 years later, after my 2 years with the Tampa Bay Storm, I went to mini camp with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And, Jordan Gay was there. Got to compete against him. He played for the Buffalo Bills for 3 years. Alex Teixeira was there. He had several workouts with NFL teams. Sergio Castillo, obviously, has been in the NFL for a few years and CFL for several years.
Still going, current kicker with Winnipeg, Sergio Castillo. Made a couple 60-yarders this year.
That is true. Good guy, too. And it's just, there's a couple other guys, that were in the NFL and CFL. And I ended up getting the nod along with Sergio after mini camp. So out of the 7 of us, the 2 of us were signed contracts. And we got to compete in training camp. So I would say it was pretty even during camp. The fans, by the way, so we go to Master University for our training camp. They have us in the dorms over there where we stay for the entire training camp. And we were battling, and those fans, man, Those fans are wild. The Hamilton Tiger Cats fans do not like the Argos at all. Let me tell you that
You don't
that
have to
is a
tell me that.
severe that is a severe rivalry that has been
Yep.
around for a very long time. But it's intense, and I love that about the fan base, man. That's what it's all about. It's about that camaraderie that you have with your team, but you're also going against the Argos several times throughout the year in the regular season. So you're going to have those kind of games where it's a battle, man. It's always going to be a battle with the Argos, whether you're with them or against them, or you're on Hamilton and you're against the Argos as well. So it's an intense rivalry. The fans are great. The thing I liked about Hamilton the most was the community. The people. I remember going to restaurants all the time during camp, and they just remember you. You're a Hamilton Tiger Cat, right? And you're just there,
You are
and
treated
they
like a
love you.
certain type of royalty. If the people that run these shops, run these restaurants, run these bars, figure out you're playing for the Hamilton Ticats, it's true. They'll roll
And they
out the
love
red
it.
carpet for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved that. I tipped very well. Just the fact that you'd walk in there, oh, Craig, how's it going? Craig the leg, how are you? And it's amazing. The people are great there in Hamilton, and don't get me wrong. They love their team, but when it comes to their football, man, it's all or nothing, all gas, no brakes. But I think that was probably the best thing was the community and the people there. They really do just welcome you in like family. So with that being said, obviously the end of camp, it was too even. Obviously, Sergio had more experience than I did in the CFL, and they ended up giving him the nod. And then at the end of training camp, I got the boot, and it was back off to whatever I needed to do next. And that was just really to hone in on my skill even more, to make sure that the next time I got an opportunity, I would absolutely crush it. And that came in 2019 with the Atlanta Falcons, where I was brought in for a workout at Flowery Branch. I was 14 to 16 on field goals, 10 for 10 inside of 50 yards, 4 for 6 at 50 plus. I ended up hitting a 61-yarder as well. But sometimes it's not enough, and sometimes maybe it is enough, but you're just not the
Politics
guy
happen.
that they want to.
Yep.
Yeah, and it is what it is. Could I have made them all? Yeah. I miss right on my 53 and 57 yarders. And that's just what it is. I made from 51, 55, 59, and 61. What else can you do? And it's not like I didn't miss twice in a row. The balls that I missed were maybe a yard right. Good distance, good height, good trajectory, everything good, just a little wide right. So could I have made them all? Yeah. Would it have made a difference? That was the only thing I was thinking about was on the plane ride home was would those 2 field goals have made a difference? And all my kickoffs, by the way, I did 6 kickoffs, and there was only one that wasn't a 4-second hang time, and they were all -5 or deeper. What else can you do? What else can you do? And I'm trying to think that could I have, with my opportunity that I was given, have done anything else possible to have gotten either a futures contract from them or an invite to training camp, because they only had Giorgio Tavecchio on the roster at the time. And then, he didn't last very long. They brought Matt Bryant back in for a few games, and then they ended up signing Young Hoku a little bit later after that. So it's
Wow,
what are you
that tells
doing
you
with
how
the
long Young
opportunity?
Hoku's been with Atlanta now. I didn't realize it was that long.
Yes. Yep. So he's been there for what, 5 years now?
Yep.
2019.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's just, what are you doing with the opportunities that you're given, and how are you using that to your advantage later on in life, right? Like your next opportunity, if and when that happens. And unfortunately, I didn't get another opportunity after that. And I kept thinking in my head, could I have done better? Yeah, I could have done better. Doing better, if I had done the very best, would it have made a difference? And I keep thinking about that, and it's like, I don't think so. I think I got brought in for a workout. They wanted to see what I had. Obviously, my agent, worked a few things around to get in there. I just don't think that it would have made a difference for me, mentally, psychologically. I did everything. I did the best I could at that day during that opportunity, and maybe I
No
do make them
regrets.
all, and
Then.
I still
You
don't.
did the best I could.
Right,
No
no
regrets.
regrets.
I emptied the tank. Did everything I could. That's all I can ask for.
So, and yeah, that's all you can. And it's tough. It's tough to live with that. But at the same time, you did your best. And, if there's any opportunities down the road, you're going to do your very best again. And then you learn from that situation so that you can perform even better. So I ended up winning three back-to-back-to-back championships in the NAL and the IFL after that. I think 21, 22, and 23.
You won.
21,
So
I
I
won
was
with
just
the
going to
all
say you won 2 championships in the NAL, but separated. One was 2018, one was 2021, and you were Special Teams Player of the Year in both of those seasons as well. And then you had the back-to-back championships in the IFL, the Indoor Football League, which just, by the way, had their championship game last weekend. Arizona beat the hell out of Massachusetts in the championship game there. I said to Craig, and jokingly after the game ended, that I should ask for his betting opinion on that game. See what he thought. But Arizona apparently was the right side, clearly, because it was like 53-16 or some shit. It was a lopsided game. But you won the back-to-back IFL championships, and you've had a great run in that league, and clearly you've enjoyed it here this last several years playing indoor arena football.
Yeah, and it's just to keep it going. You know what I mean? I know I have what it takes to play at the highest level. And just because you're not picked or chosen doesn't mean you should just stop kicking, at least in my mind. So because I can play at that level and because, I keep my body, well maintenance and, healthy during the years, it's a no-brainer to keep playing. And now I've kind of transitioned a little bit more into coaching. I'm a specialist coach out here at RPI. And, we won a bowl game last year. Now this year we're looking to win the Liberty League and hopefully, get into the tournament, which would be great. With that being said, though, it's just like, it's furthering the process in my new career, right? Being my second year here, and it's kind of taking more or less a back seat for my professional career, as it should. You can't play forever. Football will end at some point, and then you take all that knowledge and wisdom and experience that you've learned and been given from playing professionally for, I think it's over 10 years now. Take that with me into coaching, and that's how I'm going to become, or I think I am right now. I think I'm a great coach, but you can always get better. That's the thing. It's the same thing as a player. You can always continue to get better. So now as a coach, it's, yes, I think I'm a great coach helping these kids out. What can I do? How can I get better? Anything that I can learn to really jumpstart my career as a coach is just kind of reaping the benefits from all of the years that I've played professionally and trying to get better, coaching these kids out. And it's showing. I coached several kids in the Capital Region, around here. A couple kickers last year were first team all conference in their conferences. Some high school kids were first team all conference in their section. It's nice. It's a great balance of being able to do what I love and still kick at the same time, and I love both. I have a passion for kicking, obviously, but I also have a newfound passion for coaching, and it's great. Obviously the kicking is going to end at some point. I'm still going to kick, just not professionally anymore, and kind of run that into coaching, just kind of step by step, start to coach, and hopefully that takes off as well. And, eventually I'll be at a D1 program somewhere as a special teams coordinator.
There you go. I like that. Dare to dream, have goals. And there you go. Special teams coordinator at the D1 level, FBS. Maybe we're going to see one day Craig the Leg Peterson, special teams coordinator for, who knows, Buffalo Bulls, or who knows, Boston College. Who knows? One of those Division I schools. You always have to have that dream. Of course, you're coaching right now at RPI, Western New York, little private institute there. And you plan on still kicking next year, right? I know. And it's funny. You're 39. I'm 39. Our birthdays are 4 days apart. How about that?
Yes, they are.
I'm a
Yes,
July
they
14,
are. That's crazy.
1985 birthday, and you're July 18,
Go
1985
Cancers.
birthday. We love football.
Cancers.
We're 4 days apart at the same age at 39, and that's where the similarities end, because you're keeping yourself in good shape at your age, and I'm not. That's the difference. That's what. Yeah, we got work to do.
We'll get you a workout program, Ian. We'll get you on a workout program. We'll get you jacked in no time. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's a lot of too much. The drinking the beer I've drank over the years has really started to show up here. It's funny. I was a
That'll
skinny
do it.
kid my whole life, and I thought it's never going to show up. I mean, well into my 30s, I'm still skinny. And whoa, all of a sudden, the last few years, as we've gotten into our late 30s, and suddenly it is adding up. So that's what happens. When you love beer and you're not doing enough, especially in my job, as you know, sports betting and handicapping. I'm telling you what, Craig, September to April, there's not much time to breathe with everything that's going on with football, NFL and college, basketball, NBA and college, NHL hockey. When it's all going at once, it's difficult to find time to do other things. But that being said, I love the job, love sports, love football, and we're going to see what you're like as an analyst now, Craig, because we're going to talk a little AFC East. Just before we get into each team, I'll throw it to you on just your overall assessment of the AFC East, as far as the competitiveness of it. Because to me, the way the odds board is priced right now, the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins, it looks like it's a three team race for the AFC East this year. New England obviously is rebuilding. Gerard Mayo in his first year as coach. But what are your overall, at least overall impressions right now of the AFC East? I think we lost Craig there. I could tell because the screen froze for a bit. So we'll see if we can get Craig back with us here momentarily. But yeah, we'll see if we can get his connection back. In the meantime, let's get into it team by team as we always do, and we will begin with the Buffalo Bills. Of course, this is the team that has been reigning supreme in the AFC East for the last few years, but certainly going to have a little bit of a different look on offense this year. Last year, they were supposed to be one of the top offensive teams, and early in the season, they didn't look like it. It was out of sync. They were held to, 20 points or less in a lot of games, just not finishing drives with touchdowns, even though it looked like they had all the talent in the world. Ken Dorsey came under fire for what was happening with the offense and the struggles in that first half of the season, and he ended up getting fired and replaced by Joe Brady, who is still the offensive coordinator entering this season. And look, Joe Brady took over with the play calling, and Buffalo's offense really did improve in the second half. And there was just a little bit of a change in the scheme that we ended up seeing. Josh Allen, started to run the football a little bit more. He was also not always forcing the deep ball enough. They started to, and one of the criticisms under Dorsey and really of Bills teams offensively in the past was just not enough commitment to running the football, letting Josh Allen, carry the load too much, whether it was with his own running or throwing the football. There was really not enough as far as the running back and getting ignored. But suddenly James Cook became more of a focal point. They were able to run the football better with him. They used him as a pass catcher out of the backfield, which was good to see. A little more diversity from this Bills offense once Joe Brady took over. And I think when you look at the Bills this season, full season under Joe Brady, they got a taste of it last year, which is good to see. But this year, obviously, the biggest concerns are going to be the receiving core. Because, look, Stephon Diggs gone, Gabe Davis gone. But let's be real about Stephon Diggs. His production declined significantly for the Bills, especially last year after Brady took over the play calling duties. So, yes, you would think in theory it's a big loss. No Stephon Diggs, no Gabe Davis, but Diggs' production dipped. Gabe Davis, inconsistent last year. I think they thought it was going to be a monster season for him after what he did 2 years ago, and he kind of regressed. He kind of declined. He dropped passes at times, just not that consistent, second wide receiver option that the Bills were looking for. So they end up parting ways with both of them. And there's question marks about who's coming in to replace those two guys, because someone's got to replace that production. And they're going to rely on Curtis Samuel, who they brought in the offseason. They did what they had to do in the draft, and that is draft a receiver. And they did that with Keon Coleman from Florida State. And they're going to hope he's the answer. And, there's a lot of expectations and kind of pressure on Keon Coleman for a rookie receiver. Now, he was phenomenal at Florida State last year, and, of course, played at Michigan State before that. He's a big frame. He's got good hands, ability to make contested catches and difficult ones. He's got the high ceiling to be a dominant receiver and number one receiver in the NFL. And it's going to be interesting to see if Keon Coleman can live up to the billing for where he's been drafted. So Curtis Samuel is going to have to play a big role to fill the loss of production from Diggs and Davis. Keon Coleman, you'd love to see him able to make an impact. Khalil Shakir, I think, is going to be a big part of this receiving core, and he had a strong finish to the season last year for the Bills. After that, the questions are going to be, is there going to be a fourth option? Marquez Valdez-Scantling was brought in, but he's had an inconsistent camp, and also he's had drops in the past, specifically last year when he was with Kansas City, dropped way too many passes. They brought in briefly Chase Claypool as a reclamation project, and he didn't even make it out of fucking training camp. So, there are definitely depth questions with the receiving core. They're fine at tight end. Dalton Kincaid was excellent last year. Dawson Knox is now a quality backup. I think it's safe to assume Dalton Kincaid is now the undisputed starting tight end for this team. Like I said, they started to incorporate the run game and the screen game with James Cook. They draft Ray Davis out of Kentucky. So all of a sudden you got a decent, tandem. A lot of people coming into this season saying without Stephon Diggs, this Bills offense is going to tank. I'm not ready to go there yet because Joe Brady did a nice job calling the plays. Cook and Davis could form a nice duo. You've got Josh Allen still in his arm and his mobility. Shakir showed glimpses of being a go-to reliable receiver last year, but he's going to be asked to be a 1A, 1B type receiver with Coleman this year. Can he live up to that kind of billing when he gets all the extra attention from opposing secondaries? That's the big question that you have here for this Bills team, is that just whether those guys are going to be capable and be able to step up for them as receivers. On the defensive side of the football, or I should point out too, the offensive line, there are some questions there as well. Connor McGovern is going to take over at center. How's that going to work out? That's going to be something to watch for. The interior of that O-line is definitely, and the guard spots in particular, there's definitely some concerns there about whether the quality is good enough. The good news is they got Dion Dawkins, still a very, very strong tackle on the left side, and Spencer Brown on the right side. Spencer Brown does take a few too many penalties sometimes, but that's still a good tackle duo. That interior of the O-line, though, for Buffalo is a question coming into this season. Last year, the defense was supposed to be one of the strengths of the team. Sean McDermott, of course, the head coach's background is defense. But that defense totally underachieved last year. Just gave up too many points, big plays, and they were an injury-riddled defense last year. Just so many injuries. Matt Milano, one of the better linebackers in the NFL when he's healthy, he ended up getting hurt last year. And not only that, here in training camp, he gets hurt again this year, and he's going to be out indefinitely until late regular season, earliest case scenario. So just a huge blow for the Bills. Milano was missed last year. He's probably going to be missed this year. The good news is the other linebacker, Terrell Bernard, played pretty well last year. They're going to need more from him in that regard as far as his performance. Tre'Davious White, he got injured last year, and now he no longer with the Bills, so there's some shuffling going on in the secondary as well. They bring in Rasul Douglas, who actually played well when they brought him over from Green Bay last year. Christian Benford stepped up. Taron Johnson actually was one of the guys when they were a mash unit in that secondary. He's someone that really stepped forward and proved he could play at a high level. So you're going to need that kind of play from Benford and Johnson, and hope Douglas can keep giving you solid play. You're completely rebuilt in the safety position, which is concerning. Your mainstays for the last several years, and Micah Hyde, they're both gone. Taylor Rapp takes over. You've got a rookie at the other safety spot, most likely. So that safety position, big concerns. You got two established veterans. Now you've got a guy in Taylor Rapp that's not nearly as good, even though he's been a starter in the league for a long time, going back to when he was with the Rams, and you got a rookie. So there's definitely something to look for there. Von Miller's pass rushing is gone, but again, he's just a guy that just hasn't been able to stay on a football field since tearing his ACL in the 2022 season. But the good news is you have Gregory Rousseau, you have AJ Epinesa. Both of those guys showed the ability and flashed the ability to get to the quarterback last year. They're going to need both of those guys to play well. They combined for almost 12 sacks last year, but Miller's gone, and Leonard Floyd, who was a big part of that Bills pass rush last year. He has also departed. So it's going to put a lot of onus on Gregory Rousseau and A.J. Epinesa this year to be good as far as getting to the quarterback, along with Ed Oliver, who had almost double digits in sacks last year as well for the Bills. Those guys are going to be important. The good news is they also have Daquan Jones in the interior of the defensive line. So I actually like the D-line for the Bills. The secondary, it's going to be interesting if the likes of Johnson, Benford, some of these other guys can continue to play well. A linebacker takes a hit with Milano injured again. But that defensive line could be good for the Bills. I like it. I believe in Rousseau and Epinesa being able to get the pass rush going. The interior of that defensive line with Ed Oliver, with Daquan Jones, I think that's a solid unit. Tyler Bass kind of had a decline in kicking. That's something to watch for this year. He's going to have to get a lot more consistent. When you look at the Bills' schedule, it is a schedule that is not doing them any favors. It's a very, very difficult schedule overall. And outside of, some games here and there if you look at their schedule, they've got games against Arizona, which will be should be a win in Week 1 at home against the Arizona Cardinals. They play New England, of course, the worst team in this division, expected to be twice. Tennessee is a winnable game, but outside of that, this is a very difficult schedule here for the Buffalo Bills in 2024. And that's what you get when you win your division multiple years in a row. The NFL gives you one of the harder schedules. You get a first-place schedule. And so from that standpoint, Buffalo is going to be a challenge this year as far as the schedule that they've got in front of them. After that first game against Arizona, you're at Miami. You've got Jacksonville at home, which won't be a cakewalk. At Baltimore, at Houston, at the New York Jets, who could be very good as long as Aaron Rodgers stays healthy and that defense plays the way they could. You've got a long road trip out west to Seattle, at Indy. You got Kansas City, San Francisco, the Rams, Detroit, all playoff teams last year on your schedule. It's a very difficult schedule. And again, I don't think the Bills' offense is going to fall off as much as that people think, because I believe in Shakir, and I believe if they hit on Coleman, I think they're going to be fine at receiver. If Shakir plays well, Curtis Samuel is an effective receiver. And by the way, Diggs' production, like I said, when Joe Brady dropped off as the OC, or Joe Brady took over as the OC last year, production declined for Diggs. I don't think they're going to miss him as much as some people think. So when I look at this Buffalo Bills team, I think for them, it's just because of how difficult the schedule is. The Dolphins are still going to be a very competitive team to win this division. The Jets with Aaron Rodgers back are going to be someone you're going to have to deal with. I think with how difficult the schedule is, it's hard for me. For the first time in years, for many years, I've been looking at the Bills as a team to bet over their win total. I'm not feeling great about it this year. Now, it is 9.5. They need to be 10-7 or better, but it's a very difficult schedule. And I'm not ready at this point in time to commit to it as far as I'm concerned. All right, so we'll see if we got Craig back. Unfortunately, we're having technical difficulties here with Craig's connection, and we'll see if we can get him on in just a moment. It's some instability. Remember, he is actually coming to us from the campus there, RPI, where he's doing his coaching. So, we'll see if we can get him back. It's too bad he missed the entire breakdown I had on the Buffalo Bills, but nevertheless, we'll see if we can get Craig back with us. In the meantime, I'm going to move on just in case, because he is having issues keeping his connection, getting the connection stable. You have to remember, he's in a shared public setting here, so it might be a little more difficult to get that connection to be as stable and consistent as needed. But the Miami Dolphins are next up. I think when you look at Miami last year, this is interesting that we had concerns about Tua Tagovailoa. Could he stay healthy? Had an injury-plagued 2022 season. He ended up staying healthy all of last year, and then pretty much the rest of the team ends up getting hurt. So, or a large part of the rest of the team ends up getting hurt at some point last year, including Tyreek Hill, who ended up missing some games. Now, Tyreek Hill's 30, so it's going to be interesting to see, can he continue to play at a very high level? We know he's still one of the fastest, most dynamic, explosive receivers in the NFL, but you are talking about a guy that had some injuries last year and is now 30. Going to be interesting to see if he can have a big year once again with Tua. You would think so. I mean, he's still, I think, got a few really good years left before maybe that decline starts to show. Jalen Waddle gets the big contract, so Hill and Waddle end up being reunited. The Dolphins looking for some depth at receiver, bring in the veteran Odell Beckham Jr. We'll see how that goes. Of course, he has been in and out the last few years with various teams. Braxton Berrios is going to probably have a bigger role in this receiving core. River Craycraft possibly as well, who's actually had a solid preseason for the Dolphins. The offensive line for Miami, that's going to be an interesting position to note. Teron Armstead has always been one of the most prolific, strong, better left tackles in the NFL, but he's just become such an injury-prone player that it's difficult, to rely on him a little bit. He'll be back this year, but is he going to be able to stay healthy? That ends up being the question. Austin Jackson, is a solid player on that offensive line as well. The interior is going to be the interesting question because Robert Jones, Isaiah Wynn have been injury-riddled players as well. Same thing with the center, Connor Williams, but he departs. It looks like, so you're going to bring in a new center. How is that going to go for Miami? So between the ability to stay healthy and some new pieces having to come in, is that continuity and cohesion going to be there for the Miami Dolphins with the offensive line? I love the running back duo, Raheem Mostert. And as much as Mostert's good, I think you might actually see as many touches, if not more carries and rush attempts for Devin Achane. Devin Achane really came on last year and showed his explosiveness, his breakaway speed in the open field. And I think, while it is probably going to be a tandem with Mostert and Achane, it really wouldn't surprise me to see Achane actually get a few more of the reps here from Miami as far as the running back position is concerned. At tight end, they've got Jonnu Smith, bringing him in to give them a little more punch there, along with Durham Smythe. But Jonnu Smith will probably presumably be the starting tight end this year. Jalen Wright was also brought in or drafted in the 4th round to give them even more depth at the running back spot. So, the offensive Tua stays healthy, even with the O-line a little bit questionable, and that is the concern. But they still have the weapons at receiver. You got a tremendous running back duo. That O-line is going to be the area to watch, because if there's one thing that can maybe undo this offense a little bit for Miami, it could be that offensive line, because there are some questions there. As far as the defense goes, they had a ton of injuries here on that side of the ball as well last year. Jalen Phillips with the Achilles injury in week 12, just a horrible injury and a huge loss for Miami. They missed him without a doubt. The good news is Bradley Chubb stepped his game up in the absence of Phillips. Rip Van Ginkel, as I call him, Andrew Van Ginkel, was very good. But unfortunately, he's now with the Minnesota Vikings, signing there in the offseason. So they bring in Shaq Barrett. It's really a question of, has he still got some good play left in him? He's a bit of an older player now, Shaq Barrett, but how will that go is the big question. When you look at it, Zach Seatler stepped up as well for the Miami Dolphins on that defensive line. Christian Wilkins departs for the Las Vegas Raiders. That's going to be interesting. But Calais Campbell, they sign him. Now, here's another guy that's played a lot of years. Can he still play at a high enough level? Calais Campbell's been in this league for a very long time. That's the question. But still, you had to do something to address that D-line, especially pass rush and in the interior, and they did that. It'll be interesting to see if he can play at a pretty high level. There's a lot of competition going on in camp at linebacker. They're a little unsettled there as far as that's concerned. As for the secondary for the Miami Dolphins, a lot of good quarterbacks you're going to have to deal with in the conference like the AFC, including in your own division with the likes of Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers. The good news is they bring in and sign Kendall Fuller from the Washington Commanders. It was a great addition to this Miami secondary. So that's going to help. And, of course, he'll be a nice partner, if you will, in the cornerback spot to Jalen Ramsey. So all of a sudden they look pretty set to me as far as the cornerback position. Jordan Poyer defects from the Buffalo Bills to a division rival, the Miami Dolphins, but that will certainly help the Dolphins in the safety spot. He can still play well. Javon Holland's an excellent safety, and I'm not just saying that because he's Canadian. He is a legitimately excellent player at the safety spot. So I like the look of the secondary for the Miami Dolphins. When you look at the schedule, for the Miami Dolphins this year. It's a schedule where, kind of like with Buffalo, not the easiest. But I think the key for them is going to be when you look at the very beginning of it. They have Jacksonville, Buffalo at home, 2 huge games against good teams, but then a road trip at Seattle. But then they have a stretch that's winnable. Home against Tennessee, at New England, at Indy's a winnable game, and home against Arizona. They've got a nice stretch of games there that are really winnable for the Miami Dolphins. I like this team a little bit over that win total, which is currently 9.5 minus 130. I lean in that direction with the Dolphins. Think they can be 10-7 or better. Like I said, there's a reason why the Bills are lined at 9.5 wins this year, and the Dolphins. It's because the Bills, there's questions with their offense. There's questions with the schedule's brutal, positively brutal for the Buffalo Bills this year. How will they manage that? So there's going to be some wins probably elsewhere in the division this year. And like I said, we even saw it last year with Buffalo, where they did not run away with this division. It came down to week 17, week 18, I should say, against this Miami Dolphins team in that Sunday night finale. So I still lean Miami over. I am very concerned about their O-line, because Armstead can't stay healthy. He's a great left tackle, but he's had trouble staying on the field. There are questions there, but you got to love the receiving core. It's still very good and Odell to help, add to it with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Achane and Mostert are an outstanding running back tandem. The offense, as long as the O-line can be at least solid, should be fine. Like the secondary, the defensive line, I think, is good enough. Linebacker is the one area where I'm a little concerned, but I still think for Miami, they're capable of being a double-digit win team here in 2024. All right. I believe after a few minutes here of technical difficulties and connection issues, I believe we have reestablished Craig Peterson here with us on the show. Craig, I've already talked Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins, so we will circle back to Buffalo. What are your thoughts? What's your analysis for the Buffalo Bills heading into the season?
My bad about that. Here at RPI, the connection's not the greatest, but
it's also probably it's a shared public facility too.
Oh, without a doubt.
In mind. It's probably a million people using the internet. So there you go, and we're streaming, so it's all good.
So I apologize for that, but yeah, I mean, we're looking at 4-time winners of the conference, right? 4 years straight, I believe, and
the division,
yes, in the division. I'm sorry. Yeah. Can they do it again? I really don't think so. I think the schedule right now is tough. Like you said, they're at 9.5 win total. I would still take the over on that. If I was a betting man, I would do that. But are they going to win 10 games? I think they'll win 10 games. I think the roster has it set up where they can win 10 games. I don't know if you talked about Keon Coleman. They got James Cook back at running back. Obviously, Josh Allen's a dog. He can win games by himself, especially with his legs. Obviously, he can pass the ball. You got Curtis Samuel, I believe, in the slot this year. Dalton Kincaid over at tight end. But how's the defense doing? What kind of defense are they going to bring out this year? Is it going to be a classic Bills defense, or are these guys, going to kind of underscore, I guess, for the year? That, in my opinion. For them to get 10 wins, they got to play Buffalo Bills defense, and like you said, I think their schedule, it's tough this year. It is a tough schedule. So for them to get to that 10 mark, I think is doable. Are they going to be able to play championship football defense? That's what it's going to come down to. I believe the Dolphins too. So is Tua going to be able to stay healthy, right? Is Tua going to be able to stay
Last
healthy?
year he did, but that doesn't mean he's doing that this year, right?
Exactly.
Especially with the O-line. Like I said, Armstead, it's so imperative at that left tackle spot.
That's the biggest spot. Yeah, that's the biggest spot on the O-line is the left tackle. You got to be strong at your left tackle position. I agree with you 100%. Armstead's got to be healthy the entire year. Can't just be half the year either. It's got to be the whole year. New acquisition, obviously. I think you mentioned that Odell Beckham Jr. Came in. Is he going to make an impact? That's my thinking. Like, can they get to 10 wins? I believe they're at 9.5, right?
Yeah, they're 9.5.
Right? Okay.
Yep.
So Can they get the 10 wins? Of course they can get the 10 wins. What kind of team are we going to see? Is Odell Beckham going to have a bigger impact in the locker room or on the field? I think that's also what that comes down to. Is he going to have one of those years where he's kind of a cancer in the locker room, or is he going to actually be wanting to be all about football and be a dog on the field? And obviously, Tyreek Hill, you don't have to say anything about him. He's going to bring it every game. Defensively, I think you mentioned Sealer, right? I believe you
Yep.
did.
Yep.
Yep. Defensive end coming out. So they have strong pieces. Javon Holland over at safety. I think that's a great spot for him. Obviously, Jordan Poyer, I believe, strong safety, and or is he the free safety?
Free. Yep.
Yeah. So you got Poyer at the free safety position. It really depends. Their schedule is a little easier. I know you were talking about, kind of where they're at with the schedule. Obviously, yes, like you said, they got the 49ers on December 22nd, and they're at home. They got that stretch. They got the Jets, another divisional game 2 weeks before that on the 8th. They're at the Texans on the 15th. Can they go in the Packers and beat them? Yes, I think they can, given the Packers squad right now. But remember, this is down the line. This is down the road. I'm usually trying to look at beginning games. Jaguars come to their place. Right at the beginning of the season on September 8th. Can the Dolphins pick up a win there? And then they're at home again against the Bills, divisional matchup. You want to try to string together wins. I think that's the biggest thing for Miami this year is try to string together wins and get on a winning streak. That kind of momentum. It's going to be good for the team. It's good team morale. They got a good coaching staff. So, and that always matters. Having a solid coaching staff with a lot of experience is obviously something that's big in the NFL. And we'll see how they do. I don't know where we're at right now. I think we're Miami and Buffalo, but let's keep it rolling.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, these are the two teams that battled it out. It was basically a two-team race last year for first in the AFC East down to these two teams. We'll get to a team in just a moment that feels they'll be right there as well in the AFC East race. But first, because we go in alphabetical order. And by the way, I want to clarify that Javon Holland's the free safety. Strong safety is Jordan Poyer. So there you go with the Miami Dolphins. The New England Patriots next up. Look, this is obviously a team that's lagging behind the rest of the division. They're rebuilding. The Bill Belichick era comes to an end after over 20 years. Gerard Mayo takes over as the head coach of the New England Patriots. And the biggest concern with this team, it's clearly their offense. What are we going to get from it? It looks like from all indications, even though last time I saw him play in the preseason last week, he was awful. And I'm talking about Jacoby Brissett. It was not a good performance from him. I think by default, he is still going to end up starting week 1. The plan, I think, all along was they are not going to rush things with their first-round pick, Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina. But, I mean, it's alarming to see the way Brissett has kind of struggled here in preseason action for the New England Patriots, leading them at the quarterback spot. But they had to move on from Mac Jones. It just wasn't going the way the Patriots were hoping for. So they draft, obviously, Drake May, number 3 overall. But again, they're going to take their time with him. They're not going to rush him into it. But at the same point in time, Jacoby Brissett, they're going to need him to be better than what we've seen in the preseason. Don't want to overreact because it is only preseason. But certainly you're going to want to see him play better than what we've seen here in the month of August. The receiving core is a huge concern. We've got Born to Be Alive, Kendrick Bourne. Was the top receiver last year at the position, but then tore his ACL. There's no telling if he's going to be even close to 100% this year. The good news is I like what I saw out of Demario Douglas. They're going to need Jalen Polk, to end up being someone that can be an instant impact, kind of like what the Bills are hoping for out of Keon Coleman. Come out of the draft this year and immediately make an impact. Patriots are going to be looking to that from Jalen Polk, their second-round pick. From this year's draft. Javon Baker, who is very, very talented, also selected in that 2024 draft class. So a lot of youth, a lot of inexperience, at that receiving core for the Patriots. Who's going to be capable of stepping up for them at receiver. Bourne, Douglas, Polk, KJ Osborne. So there's big concerns, and they're going to have to hit on one or both of these young guys that they drafted, if that receiving core is going to be very good. Ramondre Stevenson going to be the lead back for this team, it looks like, once again. But the offensive line, which was downright horrific last year, and it was, there's no sugarcoating it. It was a horrendous offensive line, whether it was run blocking or consistent pass protection. It's not what you want to see. Okorafor and Onwenu are expected to be the tackles. Neither one played at a high level. Last year in their respective teams. There's a lot of youth there. The interior of the offensive line, one of the guys they're counting upon is going to miss the beginning of the season with a knee injury, and Cole Strange. The other blockers, you got David Andrews, and he's now in his 30s. There's also a rookie trying to push for a position because they're so thin along the offensive line. I mean, it's just a mess. The O-line, and it didn't perform well last year. So you think of it as a thin, questionable wide receiving core. Brissett, considering what we've seen in training camp, it hasn't been anything to write home about. And the fact that you've got question marks on the O-line, there's all kinds of concerns for the offense. However, there is some good news for New England. Their defense was so, at times, terrific last year, because there was so many times where they had to ask that defense to carry this damn team through many of their games because they were not getting anything from their offense. And yet that defense was able to do it. And, you look at it so far here in training camp, the defense, again, just like last year in the final year with Belichick, it looks way ahead of the offense coming into this season. There's no question. And I think when you look at what they've got this year, obviously, it's unfortunate that last year the Christian Gonzalez was missed. There's no question about that, but having him will help. Jonathan Jones had a strong year for them. Jabril Peppers turned back the clock, played well in that secondary last year for the New England Patriots as well. And can he keep that level of play up now, another year older? That's the question mark. There's some question marks at the linebacker spot, but you have a coach that played the position. So I think he's got the chance to, build these guys, develop these guys, and try to make them better. And the pass rush, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes, because Matthew Judon was traded just recently to the Atlanta Falcons. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on, Gonzalez. It's going to be interesting. Can they get pass rush too from the likes of Keon White, Dietrich Wise as well? Here now with Judon traded away to the Atlanta Falcons. Christian Barmore is someone that's going to have to make a very big, have a very big season too. Help that pass rush out with the Judon trade. We'll see if he can do that for the New England Patriots. When you look at their schedule coming into this season, look at this schedule to begin the season. It's pretty brutal. When you talk about a Joe Burrow returning Cincinnati Bengals team, you talk about the Jets, and you talk about the 49ers, the Dolphins, the Jets again, the Jaguars, the Texans, who were a playoff team last year and should be good again this year. It's a very demanding schedule, very tough. To me, there's two takes I have with New England. Their win total, I could only look at under, with how tough the schedule is, the fact that they're going to have to play 2 games with the Bills, 2 games with the Jets, 2 games with the Dolphins in their own division, all teams on paper that are better than the New England Patriots. It's going to be tough for me in Gerard Mayo's first season, that transition, to expect this team to be a 5+ win team. So at 4.5, it's a low win total, but I don't know if this is going to be better than a 4-13 football team here in 2024. So I'd lean with that under. I do have a piece of New England to have the worst record in the NFL this season as well. And that's a market that you can look at as well. Worst record in the NFL. And at the moment, the New England Patriots are the favorite to be the worst team in the NFL at plus 320. Denver behind them, Carolina behind them. And I'm higher on Carolina this year than most people are. I think New England is the clear choice for me. If I had to choose one team right now to be the worst team in the NFL, it would be New England. And look, that's no disrespect to their defense. Their defense could really be good and keep them in games, but that offense is just top to bottom, got holes and questions all over it. And the O-line was probably bottom 3, at the very least, a bottom 3 offensive line last year. It's hard to win in the NFL when you don't have that kind of quality play from your run blocking, and pass protection group along the offensive line. And then that schedule is a murderer's row, especially in the first half of the season, like I said. So under 4.5 wins for New England. I took a shot with New England to have the worst record in the NFL this season. These aren't your dad's New England Patriots, not in 2024. Craig, what do you think here for New England this year?
This is tough because, like you said, you're taking the under here. It, it is tough because Drake May is very promising, right? He is a special quarterback. He's got a lot of talent coming out of UNC and the third overall pick, just like you said. It's going to be the guys around him. How are they going to be able to coordinate with the quarterback? What kind of reps are they getting in during practice? You know, how the kind of the coalition, right, as a unit, how well are they going to be? How special really is Drake May, right? That's what we're going to have to find out. I don't think he will start. I think he will get put in probably halfway through the game for the season opener. I think Brissett is just too all over the place. You know, he's not accurate. He makes the wrong reads. He's a quarterback that is not as talented as Drake May. Let's be real. And I think if Drake May can overachieve this year, I think they can have 5 wins. I think they can get to 5 wins. The defense could be a top 10 defense. I mean, if I'm being honest, this defense could be a top 10 defense, but it's just hard to see the offensive staff making up for the lack of talent with scheme. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Is May that special where he can get them to 5 wins? I think he is. I really do. How well he plays is going to be the engine to that team. Like you said, Kendrick Bourne and Jalen Polk, good wide receivers. I think he's going to have to rely heavily on Hunter Henry. I think Hunter Henry is the wild card here. The tight end plays, getting open, making blocks, and then releasing out, for easy slants, easy outs, getting those 5 to 8 yards, for first downs that they need. It's going to be tough, but in reality, it's an offense in year one of a rebuild, right? This is a completely rebuilt team. There's a lot of new added players to the mix, especially the quarterback. The quarterback being the most important position. They re-signed Mike Onwenu. I don't know if if I'm pronouncing that right. Is it Onwenu?
Onwenu. Yep.
They re-signed him. Great. He's going to be at right tackle. So, well, they picked up Okorafor, as a free agent. Do we even know what's going on with Juju Smith-Schuster? Do we even know what's happening? I know he's guaranteed $7 million this year, but what's going on with him? I think because of the situation that is going on with him, they signed KJ Osborne, right, in free agency,
Yep.
and then added in Polk. It's going to be tough. I think they can get to 5. I don't think it's going to be more than that. That's why I know that's why the sports bettors have it that way with the books. But
Juju's out. Juju's not even on the roster. Juju got released. So
okay, so they're just paying him. They're just
Yep.
paying him guaranteed money.
Paid him to go away.
That's unfortunate. That's a loss for the Patriots. That's a huge loss at wide receiver. So, the return of Gonzalez is great. That should give the Patriots kind of.
He was playing really well before he got hurt last year, Christian Gonzalez. So if they get that version of him, that's going to help that pass rush. That's going to help that front.
And that's just the thing. Like, I think the starters are great, but what kind of depth do they have?
Yep.
In the secondary, they don't really have depth, and that's important, especially lasting 17 games. That's going to be a struggle. As a professional myself, I know. Trust me, you need depth throughout the season. Players are going to get hurt. It's football. You know what I mean? It's what happens. Yeah, you got to stay healthy, but players are going to get hurt. They're going to be out a few games. Hopefully not, but you got to be prepared for it at least. And the Patriots aren't in the secondary in their depth, so it's going to be tough to keep the defense going that long, for the entire season. But we'll see what happens. I think if the earlier they put Drake in, I think they're better off, to be honest. I don't think they should wait that long. especially if they are going to get to over 4 wins. I think that if the earlier they put Drake in, the quicker they can get to 5 wins. Put it that way. Yeah, it's
We
tough.
saw in Denver, obviously, Bo Nix beat out Jarrett Stidham. The rookie beat out the veteran. Jarrett Stidham's not a big-time veteran. He's only been around a few years, but he's a veteran compared to Bo Nix. And Bo Nix outplayed Jarrett Stidham in training in preseason, and Sean Payton rewarded him with the starting quarterback job in week 1 right away. Now, what we have seen here is Jacoby Brissett play not good enough so far in preseason, but Drake May hasn't been lighting it up in preseason like Bo Nix has. So there's a lot more indecision right now, I think, with Gerard Mayo as far as who's going to be his starter in week 1. What I would say is New England plays Washington Sunday night in their final preseason game. It's a nationally televised game, NBC Sunday Night Football, this Sunday, Patriots Commanders. There's a reason why New England's taken all the money in that game. People have been betting New England hand over fist in that game. They have a big-time situation they have to sort out as to who's going to be their starter in week 1. So you might see New England treat this game seriously. They've got to evaluate these guys. Is Brissett going to get a chance? He's going to get a chance to start again. Can he play better? Can they see something positive, something better out of him? They're going to give Drake May more playing time. Like, that's why this is suddenly a very important final preseason game coming up for the New England Patriots on Sunday night, because they've got to figure the fuck out who's going to be our starter. And I don't think they feel confident enough at the moment with what they've seen out of Brissett. But I also think, Craig, they're hesitant to just hand it to the rookie, Drake May. So I think Sunday is going to go a long way to determining the final decision that Gerard Mayo makes with his starting QB.
If it was me, I would play each for a half. I would play each of them for a half and see how it goes. Or, if you really want to, you can go quarter by quarter, right?
Yep.
You can start Brissett out in the first quarter. You play Drake in the second quarter, evaluate at halftime, and make a decision coming out of half as a coaching staff, right? Do you want to start Drake in the second half?
Lost Craig again. It's just, it is what it is. Like he said, he's in a building where the internet is being consumed by a lot of different people. So we apologize for him going in there. He's back. There he is.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's not my fault. I promise. I promise. I'll be at home next time. I can guarantee you that. It's just a matter of the second half. Do you want to end with Brissett and then see where that takes him going into the game against the Bengals? At the Bengals, what kind of Drake is going to show up if they do end up starting him? It's on the road. This is a big stage now, man. This isn't UNC anymore. This is big time. So I'll be watching that game. That Patriots Commanders game. I'll be watching that game. I'm very intrigued to see how they play out that game as a coaching staff, given having two guys that are competing for the top spot and one of them is a rookie.
No doubt. Craig loves football. He loves watching football too, as you can tell. So that's why we have him on the show, because he's in tune with everything that goes on throughout the course of the season, even when he is coaching at RPI there. All right, we got the New York Jets, final team in this AFC East Division preview. And look, I think that this is a high variance team. It's, for me, at least in my preseason analysis, Craig, it's a difficult team to really get a true gauge on, because just like with last year, they can be one Aaron Rodgers injury away from a season lost. Once again, that's a very real possibility. How does he respond coming off an injury like that? It's been a long, hard rehab process for a guy that's now in the 40s. So that's going to be something you want to watch for. It's not just a given and a bona fide, surefire thing that Aaron Rodgers, now at 40 years old, coming off an injury like that, is going to just be automatically top shelf form again at the quarterback spot. So that is definitely something. He's going to be 41, later this year in December. So, and he really hasn't played in 2 full years. When you're coming off that kind of an injury, it's going to be, very, very concerning. Like I said, I got to see it before I believe it. Let's see how he looks. Is there potential for this offense to be great? Yes. But what's been one of the setbacks and things that has held this Jets on, besides lousy quarterback play from anyone not named Aaron Rodgers on this team for the last few years? What's been the other setback? Oh, yeah, the offensive line, which has been a big problem for the Jets the last few years. But there is some good news. You know, Tyron Smith, brought in, formerly of the Dallas Cowboys, but he has been injury prone. Let's see how he shakes things up for this Jets offensive line. Olu Fashanu ends up being the 11th overall pick. Again, a pick used to shore up the offensive line. It's going to be interesting to see how they fare. They've also had issues with keeping Elijah Vera Tucker healthy along that offensive line. Can he be on that field for more than that this season? Yeah, I think
Morgan Moses too, a veteran, another veteran they brought in this year too, got a 1-year deal just like Tyron Smith. So that, I mean, they've got some veteran leadership on the front line.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And what are they going to get from in the interior of that O line? John Simpson from Baltimore. Tippmann brought in a rookie season that was kind of up and down for him, but there's a lot. There's older guys. Tyron Smith is an elite O lineman a few years ago with Dallas. Is he still at that level? A, and B, can he be on the field for 17 games this season? There's still a boatload of question marks with how can that Jets offensive line come together. And you're talking about now a 40-year-old quarterback coming off a significant injury. They're going to have to be good, to avoid another. Yep.
I agree with you, but they do have a decent backup in Tyrod Taylor. I mean, he was no joke last year, in the reps that he did get with the Giants, and he proved to be pretty decent if something were to happen to Aaron Rodgers.
I would agree with you there. I think they're at least a little bit better off as far as their backup spot. If something were to happen here to Aaron Rodgers this season. Tyrod Taylor's played in this league for a very long time. Obviously, they don't want it to come to that, but it's definitely something that it's nice to have a Tyrod Taylor if something happens to Aaron Rodgers. I don't mind the receiving core at all. But again, with Mike Williams, I've said this for years, going back to his Chargers days. Great when he's on the field, and it's just been too many injuries for him. Again, it feels like a broken fucking record with some of these players. It's just one injury after another. I haven't been able to stay on the field for a full season, but he's a great receiver when he is on the field. And we'll see if he can have a durability for the Jets this year. And obviously, it goes without saying, Garrett Wilson has become a truly elite receiver in this league, one of the best. Just eye-popping highlight reel catches last year. Right away, that first game of the season against the Bills, the catch he made. Xavier Gibson, Alan Lazard, a veteran receiver as well. Tyler Conklin, capable tight end as well. So the skill position group is there. But what I really love, too, is the running back tandem of Braylon Allen and Breece Hall. Breece Hall could have a monster year. If this O-line can just be solid in run blocking and open up those holes, Breece Hall is a terrific back that can take advantage of that. And I know they're going to be committing to run the football to take some pressure off Rodgers in the passing game a little bit. So a lot of people that I've talked to around the NFL fantasy and betting world saying that they expect a big season for Breece Hall. I would not be surprised if that is indeed the case. And then you transfer it to the defense. So there are a few questions with the offense, and a lot of it revolves around the offensive line and Aaron Rodgers' ability to stay healthy and play at a high level coming off an injury like that. There's not many questions on defense, though. This should be one of the better defenses in the NFL with what they've got. There's no question. Think about the fact they went 7-10 last year with Zach Wilson playing awful. There was a couple other quarterbacks that got in there. They were absolutely horrendous, horrific. And yet that defense did everything they could to give them a chance to win football games last year. And when you look at what they've got, Bryce Huff, Jermaine Johnson, who were dynamic pass rushers last year. Unfortunately, Huff was traded. They get in Hassan Reddick, and they thought Hassan Reddick was going to be part of this team, and now Hassan Reddick wants no part of the Jets and is demanding out. So there is some question about who's going to be that other pass rusher for them. But the linebacker spot, C.J. Mosley, Quincy Williams, both outstanding. I know Mosley's in his 30s now, but I think he can still play at a pretty high level. Quincy Williams is excellent. They should have no issues there at the linebacker spot. And then, of course, at the cornerback position, Sauce Gardner. Already an elite cornerback in this league. It's at the point now where it's kind of like a previous Jets iteration of this team many years ago with Darrelle Revis Island. You just don't even bother throwing to that side of the field where Darrelle Revis is, and it's getting to that point now with Sauce Gardner, with how good he has been. And then DJ Reed, outstanding. Michael Carter, the second. I mean, they're loaded at receiver. That's going to be interesting to see. And then the safety spot. Coming into this season. Chuck Clark, remember, was supposed to be a big part of that safety position last year, but he suffered a torn ACL. He's back from that this year for the Jets, so that should bolster the safety spot. There's just not many holes. There's not many weaknesses when it comes to the defense for this New York Jets team. And then, of course, when you look at the linebacker play, Quinnen Williams, outstanding there in the interior. The linebacker spot looks pretty solid. Javon Kinlaw, we'll see if he can take a step forward, but there's a lot of really good players, all three levels of this defense, the clear strength of this team going into the 2024 season, the defensive side of the football. And the good news for the Jets is, unlike the Bills, unlike the Dolphins and the Patriots, their schedule is not nearly as difficult. It's not as, daunting as some of the other teams in their own division. You look at the Jets have a tough opener against San Francisco on the road, Monday Night Football to begin the season. But, then after that, you got Titans, Patriots, Broncos, Vikings. You've got some winnable games after that if you're the New York Jets. Everything, Craig, about this team tells me you should be betting the over here with a healthy Aaron Rodgers that's going to make the offense instantly better, even with O-line concerns and questions, with a legitimately elite, dominant defense that this team should have. But Rodgers staying healthy, the O-line, the Jets being the Jets, just when you think they finally got a team capable of competing and winning a division and winning a Super Bowl, they let you down. It's happened for 30, 40 years now and counting, it feels like. And I'm not a big Salah fan as a head coach. I've got to be convinced still. A great coordinator in San Francisco before he got this job, but he's given Aaron Rodgers time off during training camp. He can just go to Egypt or go wherever he wants to go, no problem. That's just kind of the weird dynamics. If I'm a teammate, I'm thinking, well, where's my trip to Egypt, coach? Why can't I go somewhere and not be here at training camp? Aaron Rodgers gets to do that shit. I can't. What the fuck?
Nobody is above the team. Nobody is above the team.
That's the thing that I'm trying to get to, Craig. Exactly. That to me, that's just, you set a bad precedent that way. Who's running the fucking team? Aaron Rodgers or Robert Saleh?
Exactly.
Aaron Rodgers says, I'm just going to go to Egypt here in training camp. I'll be back. No big deal. Well, some other players are going to think, where's my, little time to get a holiday in in the midst of training camp? How's that fair? So, that dynamic, that locker room dynamic is going to be something to watch for here with the Jets. So there are a couple of things that are keeping me off betting the over, but I do lean that way with their win total. I'm not ready to bet them to win the division either. The Jets have found ways to fuck it up. The Jets have found ways to screw it up for my entire lifetime. I'm going to need to be convinced they write a different chapter in the book here this season before I get involved. Craig, what do you think? One of the more interesting teams entering this season, the New York Jets.
I think the biggest thing for the Jets is their backups, right? The kind of depth that they have this year. Like, real quick, I want to talk about Olu Fashanu, the number overall pick, coming in as swing tackle, play either right or left tackle for Aaron Rodgers. Obviously he's going to be behind Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, but I mean, we haven't talked about that. Like, I mean, this is a freak. This guy is a freak. That's why they picked him number 11 overall, right? This guy is an athlete, offensive tackle. Again, with the backups, we didn't talk about Malachi Corley, right? 6 feet tall, 215, coming out of Western Kentucky, drafted in the 3rd round. Amazing wide receiver, great hands, got length, and he's in the 4 spot. They've got great depth on offense, and I, like you said, can Aaron Rodgers stay healthy? If something does happen, he's 40. If it's a tweak here or there, can Tyrod Taylor come in, be a backup, a real backup, and win football games for this team? I think they can. I think he can. As long as Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, yes, I think they'll be. I think they'll be right at the top of the division, if not fighting for it, right? With the either with the Bills or the Dolphins. This is a very, very, very competitive division. Obviously the Patriots, they're in a rebuild. It's a first-year rebuild. I get it. But these 3 teams, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if all 3 of these teams make the playoffs. Do not be surprised if that happens, because I won't be. I won't be. It's very, it hasn't happened in a while, I think, right? There were 3 teams in the division. What is it, the NFC East, I believe? With the Eagles, the Giants, and the Cowboys?
There was that one year, a couple of years ago. Yeah, when Brian Dable's first year with the Giants, I think they all got into the playoffs. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Don't be surprised if that happens again with the AFC East. I just they have the teams, right? They have the quarterbacks, right? They all have got great quarterbacks, right? You got Josh Allen, you got Tui, and then you got Aaron Rodgers, classic veteran. So the Jets in depth, at least, I think they've got it. The only thing that I didn't like, and obviously, it happens, trades happen all the time, was the trade of John Franklin Myers on the defensive line. That exposes a little bit of their depth on the D line, but as long as they can stay healthy, I think they'll still be. I think they'll still be competitive on the defensive end. Their defensive talent is good for right now. It's good. It was great. You lose a guy like that on the defensive line. You're going to kind of expose yourself a little bit. But the offseason decisions that Joe Douglas made, they all make sense to an extent, right? They all make sense, especially for Aaron Rodgers. You can tell that they made these decisions with these one-year deals with these veteran tackles, that they're doing it for Aaron Rodgers. They are all in this year on Aaron Rodgers, right? That's what it's going to come down to. Quarterback play, the offense. I'm a big tight end guy, if you haven't noticed. Tyler Conklin, I think, could also have a big year. He's going to be that outlet guy for Aaron Rodgers as well, because he's got to get rid of the football.
It's amazing how it's become a tight end league the last 5-6 years.
I agree. And the longer Aaron Rodgers holds on to the ball, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? The longer he holds on to the ball, could get hit.
Yep.
We don't want him getting hit at all. And I
so
think
get over the middle of the field, get the ball out of his hands quickly, and that's why Breece Hall is a pass catching running back. People think, look out this year as a pass catching running back. Take the pressure off Rodgers. We want to get the ball, get the release out of his hands quickly, and that's where your pass catching running back Breece Hall, and that's where there's over the middle intermediate routes rather than waiting for the deep shots to develop. And a guy like Conklin comes in with the over the middle stuff.
I agree. You hit the nail in the coffin for the defense. The defense is easily the best part of their team, right? They've got a solid defense. They were 7-10 last year with no quarterback. I mean, Zach Wilson's, a throwaway from going down to the CFL. You know what I mean? So it's just like,
I don't even think the CFL would want him.
I was going to say, that's not even a knock on the CFL. They've got great talent over there with quarterbacks as well. I don't even know if he'd be able to go there. So with that being said, I mean, they've got corners that can lock guys up. I mean, I love watching Sauce Gardner play. He runs routes for the guys, right?
And they brought in Trevor Siemian too at one point last year, and he wasn't any better. But so they had all kinds of quarterback problems.
Problems. They had big problems. They've got corners that can lock guys up, that can play. They can play man defense. They can have different blitz packages. I mean, I think that this defense is going to be just as good, if not better, than last year. Even with the loss of John Franklin Myers, like let's be honest. I think if they can keep the defense off the field for as long as possible, as long as Aaron Rodgers is playing well, they're going to be fresh. Every time they go out there, they're going to give 100%. I guarantee you that. So, look for Clark and Adams in the backfield to really, and I mean the safety position, their secondary, to really like bolster their defense, right? Really be I guess be veterans without being veterans, but I think they're going to be just fine. I think they've got a great chance to make the playoffs. I think they got a good chance to win the division. And is Aaron Rodgers going to stay healthy? That's what it comes down to.
I mean, Mosley, Quincy Williams in the linebacker spot, Quinnen Williams on the defensive line, the anchor in the interior. Pass rush, again, with this Reddick stuff going on, that's the one little thing that's disappointing. They were hoping Reddick would be part of this, and it doesn't look like he wants any part of sticking around with the Jets. So at this point in time, that's the one area. Who's going to be the consistent, pass rusher for this group? It's going to be something. But still, even with that, there's so many, websites and people that grade players in the NFL and grade position groups, opinions that I respect that still say, even with the Reddick concerns, and you mentioned John Franklin Myers and Bryce Huff being gone from last year's team, and even with Reddick not being a part of it, this is still maybe one of the best defensive line in the NFL, and still one of the best defensive lines in the NFL, because you still got Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald IV, you got Quinnen Williams. You're still really good up there, and you're still a top 2 or 3 at the very least defensive line. So it's going to be a fun. It's going to be a fun team to watch, whether it goes great or whether it turns to shit.
Right.
Honestly, it will. That's the way you got to look at it with the New York Jets. They're going to be an intriguing, fascinating team to watch. I have nothing on their win total. I don't have a lot of Jets positions preseason because they are a bit of a, a lot of people think that this finally could be the year they put it together, make the run, get into the playoffs, and then make a run at the Super Bowl, and they certainly could. But when you're a franchise that has been besieged by failure for decades and there's been years before too, Jets, people thought it was going to be a great season for them and it didn't go well. It's kind of I got to see it before I believe it vibe, for me when it comes to the New York Jets. All right, there you go. That is the AFC East, all 4 teams. Great stuff. I know we had some technical and connection interruptions there with Craig from where he is. That's okay. We made the best of it. It's all good. But before we wrap things up, your favorite, if you had to make one pick from the AFC East, Craig, the spotlight's on you now as far as win total, pick to win the division, over under a win total. What's your favorite pick here from the AFC East?
I'm big on veterans. I'm huge on veterans, guys that are willing to prove themselves over and over again. I'm going to go with the New York Jets. I think the New York Jets win this division. I think it's close. I think it's within a game. I think Aaron Rodgers does stay healthy. He knows what he needs to do to stay healthy, that he's got the offensive line this year that he's wanted. He's been working hard. You can tell he's training in the offseason, getting his Achilles right. He's done everything he needs to do to be in a position to win football games and get this team to the playoffs and win this division. I think they get to 12 wins, 11 to 12. If I had to pick, I think they get to 12 wins. I think they have a 12-win season. Jets to win the division, and that's what I like this year. I like that.
So you would say that's a bold pick from Craig because it's usually we're used to the Jets being the Jets. But I will say this about him picking the Jets to win the division: if Rodgers turns back the clock, plays he doesn't even have to be have one of his best years. Just be good. To go with that defense, then the Jets could absolutely win this division. I get it. I mean, it's set up for the New York Jets to finally get it done. Will they is the question, but Craig Peterson going with the Jets plus 180 to win the AFC East. That's around the price that they are currently set to win the AFC East. So Jets plus 180 to win the AFC East. And you're right, health going to be a big component for the New York Jets this season. My best bet in the AFC East this year, this is a division where I've got a lot of question marks about a lot of the teams. Let's take a shot with New England, worst team. Even though I think their defense could actually be pretty good. But you got to be able to score points in the 2024 era of NFL football, and I'm just not at all sure they're going to be capable of doing that. You can go with the win total under, but let's go for a little bang for our buck. Around plus 320 to plus 325 at most books is what you can get this price. New England, worst record in the NFL this season. I'll roll with that for my AFC East best bet. Great stuff. As you can tell, Craig knows football, loves football, passion for it, loves talking about it. We'll be seeing a lot more of Craig throughout the season for sure because he's done a great job here with the AFC East preview. Craig, hope you had a lot of fun. It was a blast talking football with you here.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on again. Again, I apologize about the technical difficulties. Next time I'll have my stuff in the back. We'll get after it and whatever the topic is, and obviously football for the most part. We'll get after it. We'll chop it up, and let's hope for a good season, man.
No doubt. Looking forward to it. For Craig the Leg Peterson, I should say. Let's get it right. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like button on the way out. This has been the AFC East season preview video. Join us again next time right here on Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy.